بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا الدين وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله أرسله بالهدي ودين الحق رحمة للعالمين، ونصلي ونسلم ونبارك على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين وأصحابه الصالحين ومن اتبعوا بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. عباد الله، أوصيكم بتقوى الله وأستفتح بالذي هو خير، أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدًا عبده ورسوله. We always start in the name of the most merciful, the most compassionate, Allah, the glorious makers of the heavens and the earth. And we acknowledge our debt to Allah for the greatest gift that could have been bestowed upon humanity, the gift of monotheism and the faith of Islam, the faith of purity and truth, the faith of humanity and mercy and compassion. And we acknowledge the truth of the same message that has been sent to the Prophet Ibrahim sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and all the prophets since then to our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I remind you, and I remind myself, that there is no greater wisdom and no greater knowledge than to be conscious and conscientious in your awareness of Allah and the presence of divinity in all aspects of our life. As Khaled Abou El Fadl, the great scholar, said, paraphrasing the hadith reported from the Prophet, narrated or attributed to the Prophet ﷺ, Hamd al-Ghazali put it this way: Ar-Ruh Nurun min Jamalillah. Human soul, the human soul is but a luminous substance, a light that is part and parcel of the beauty of the divine. What animates us, what is within us, what makes the difference between our physical entity that deteriorates, becomes ashes and dust, becomes grotesque as it returns to its basic elements, and that spirit that shines through the light of the living, in the very glimmer of the eyes of the living, is the beauty of Allah. It is what the divine is all about. In every human being that walks on the face of this earth, whether that human being is someone who recognizes their indebtedness and their gratitude to Allah, whether that human being recognizes the truth of the messages of the prophets from Abraham to Muhammad, or whether that human being lives in the richest mansions of Beverly Hills or in the poorest huts of Africa, whether that human being is a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew, or someone who doesn't even recognize the divine, what all human beings share, without exception, is that animation of light within them, that peace of the beauty of the divine, that soul, and that soul, that spirit, is only from Allah, only from God. When a human being extinguishes life, terminates life, the reason that the Quran describes it, that whoever kills another without just cause, it's as if they have murdered all humanity. Is that the offense is no less against the very act of creation of divinity. That Allah, God, God's self, has endowed in human beings that miraculous, inexplicable, unexplainable, deeply philosophical, but yet not entirely comprehensible secret of life and consciousness. It makes the life of any human being, rich or poor, white or black, Muslim or not Muslim, of immeasurable value. It has a sanctity that is not given by human beings and cannot be taken away by human beings. It's a sanctity that comes from the maker of the soul and can only be treated through the permission of the divine and authorization from the divine. This is particularly important for us to remember, the importance of the human soul. And all the more important to remember that in Islam, our Prophet ﷺ taught us that it is a lesser offense for Allah that the Kaaba itself be removed than for a Muslim to be killed unjustly. As the well-known hadith says, أهون على الله. Because we live in an age that often challenges our sensitivities and even our innate and perhaps intuitive, or what should be an intuitive awareness of the deep value of human life and the deep value of Muslim life. Not just events like what happened in New Zealand, and not just events like what happened in Mali, where 150 members of the Fulani tribe were slaughtered in cold blood. But one of the most alarming things and scariest things to think about is that according to the most conservative study, that in the past 20 years, there are 12.5 million, a minimum of 12.5 million Muslims that have been killed in wars or military conflicts, whether invasions or civil wars. This doesn't include the number of Muslims killed in Bosnia, but it does include the number of Muslims killed in Myanmar, and Yemen, and Syria, and Libya. It doesn't include the number of Muslims, an unknown number of Muslims in concentration camps in China, and the number of disappeared Muslims in places like China, or the number of Muslims that have been killed in places like Vietnam in very recent events. It is fair to say that in today's world, the most abused religious group on the face of earth are Muslims, whether at their own hands, Muslims against Muslims, or from the hands of non-Muslims against Muslims. Why do I choose to talk about this here and now? I don't come to Princeton often. As some of you might know, I live in Los Angeles and I visit Princeton on occasion whenever I'm invited. I went to graduate school here at Princeton. I used to call it home a long time ago, but that was a very long time ago. In my days, when I came to Princeton, Muslims were such a small group that we used to pray in the basement. We used to pray Jummah in the basement of the church next to here, the University Chapel. And there were about 5 of us that would pray Jummah. The fact that the number of Muslims are increasing in a place like Princeton gives one hope. But if and only if and only if the Muslims that go to places like Princeton will maintain their Muslim consciousness, their sense of pride about their own faith, their own allegiance to their identity, and a sense of ethical awareness about the meaning of Islam and what Islam's role in this world ought to be. Think of it this way. All of us, without exception, as long as you've reached the age of accountability, regardless of your educational background, regardless of your class background, regardless of your racial background, when we face Allah in the hereafter, Allah will present us with the number of slaughtered Muslims in the world first and ask us, what have you done about it? What was your role? And then Allah will present us with the amount of injustice and slaughter that was committed on earth in general, and ask us the same question: what have you done about it? What was your role? The extent of your accountability is directly proportional to your privilege. If you have lived an unprivileged life on this earth, enjoying little power, few opportunities, little venues for change, your accountability will be far less than that if you enjoyed a privileged education, a privileged class background, and a privileged access to power. And this is why I talk about this in my visit to Princeton. As a Princetonian myself, do not kid yourself, we are a privileged people. we have an opportunity to even do something that most of our compatriots and fellow Muslims cannot do. We have the opportunity, to put it bluntly, perform whiteness. We can engage in the act of racial passing, where we can act white, pretend to be white, and enjoy the privileges of whiteness, and partake in the intoxications of power. But that act of passing is a moral cop-out. If it makes you avoid confronting the ultimate issues of what do you do about a minimum of 12.5 Muslims murdered in the past 20 years alone. Now, imagine if you add to this the number of Muslims murdered around the world since colonialism, since World War II. Can you imagine the staggering number? Put it this way. It took a great deal of activism, a great deal of literature, a great deal of philosophy, a great deal of movie making, a great deal of creativity, a great deal of poetry to make the world remember the 6 million Muslims, the 6 million Jews that died in the Holocaust. Well, you young Muslims and me, not so young Muslim, have a challenge. In the past 20 years alone, double the number of those who died in the Holocaust, Muslims have been killed. You and me have a challenge. Since World War II, quadruple the number than those who died in the Holocaust. Muslims have been killed. And since the age of colonialism, no one knows. But it would be truly a staggering amount. Because anyone that has worked in the human rights field will tell you it is very difficult to assess the results of victimization, racism, and colonialism accurately and precisely. It is a moral imperative to understand that with privilege comes responsibility. And the mere fact that you can fill your stomach and look towards an upward mobility and dream of tomorrow in itself is a privilege. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وسبحان الله العلي العظيم ونصلي ونسلم ونبارك على محمد الخاتم النبي الخاتم الأمين وعلى آله وأصحابه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. Some of you might, of course, and as always happens, wonder, oh, what can we do? What is it that you expect Muslims in Princeton, New Jersey to do about the ugliness of the world? If Allah truly believed that the ugliness of the world is inevitable and a deterministic result, Allah would not have created accountability. Allah is just, and Allah would not hold us accountable for what is fated and predestined. The fact that we are accountable in itself derives from another fact, that history is changeable and subject to human agency and will. Some of you will be talented in writing. Think of those Muslims who are disempowered and cannot protect their own interests. Some of you will be talented in politics. Get involved in the political process. Learn how to empower your fellow Muslims. Some of you will be talented in law and philosophy. Get involved in human rights and the dynamics of equality and equality. Even those who are involved in casting light upon the way that race interplays and affects power make great contributions. Some of you will be talented in business. We don't need you to pretend to be imams when you become rich, put it bluntly. Or some of you will be talented in engineering or computer science. We don't need you to pretend to be Muslim scholars once you become rich. Go do a great job in your engineering jobs and in your business. Make a lot of money and donate it to the Muslim poets and writers and movie makers and philosophers and politicians. Each of you should excel in your area. The reason Muslims are dominated, subjugated, and powerless is that the lawyer pretends to be a doctor, and the doctor pretends to be a jurist, and the businessman pretends to be a know-it-all, and the engineer pretends to be an imam. It's a mess. And because of that mess, we cannot respect each other, and we live in a state of false consciousness and oblivion. Each of us, كل ميسر إلى ما خلقه الله. Each of us, Allah has given a talent to. God has given a talent to each of us. And that talent paves your way in life and defines the role that you must explore for yourself. I repeat, whatever you do, the mere fact that Allah has given you an opportunity of a privileged education in a place like Princeton is already a darn good indicator that you bear a disproportionate responsibility for carrying the burden of change in this world and making a difference in it. And that is what you should dedicate the rest of your life to exploring, while affirming and strengthening your Islamic commitments, because Allah has given you a gift, the like of which so many people around the world has been denied of, simply because they were not born Muslim, while many of you have. اللهم اعف عنا اللهم اغفر لنا اللهم ارحمنا واهدنا سواء السبيل اللهم انصر الإسلام وأعز المسلمين وزدنا علما وهدى ويقينا يا رب العالمين. Allah, forgive our sins, grant us greater wisdom, allow us to be more authentic and genuine Muslims, and to carry our burdens in this cause of justice and truth and wisdom and piety. And aid us and support us wherever we go and wherever we may be, and forgive and bless those who have lost their lives in New Zealand and in Mali and in every place, those who have lost their lives unjustly and unfairly in cowardly criminal acts.
Assalamu alaikum, my dear sisters and brothers. I hope that you're doing well, inshallah. We'd like to thank our Imam and Khatib today, Dr. Khaled Abou El Fadl, who, for those of you who don't know, is the chair of the Islamic Studies Department at the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, and he's a foremost Muslim intellectual in the West, so we're very honored to have him. With that, inshallah, we're going to listen to a dua from our beloved sister Grace, who happens to be married to Dr. Khaled Abou El Fadl. So please say Ameen to her duas. Please remain for the dua. If you must leave, please leave very, very quietly.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, our most loving Creator, we ask for blessings of peace and love upon the Prophet Muhammad and all of the prophets from the time of Abraham forward. Dear God, we ask you to envelop us in your love and your light and your blessed protection. We ask for you to inspire us to be the best version of ourselves, dignified and empowered, true to ourselves, and directed to you in service. We ask for you to accept our gratitude, always insufficient, but full of love. And we ask for your forgiveness for our foolishness and our forgetfulness, that without you we are lost, but with you we are whole and we're complete and partnered with the divine, capable of anything. For those of us who are strong in our faith, please guide and empower us and give us strength and steely resolve, and help us to fuel our passion for you. For those of us who have not found our strength and our passion in you, please help us find the truth and help us recommit to loving you and getting to know you. And for those of us who are struggling with our faith and struggling to be Muslim, inspire us to educate ourselves and find your beloved, beautiful path of reason and justice and love. Help all of us to find the divine in ourselves and to find the gift that you've given us and our passion and our strength, and help us to reach our full potential. Let us say a special prayer for those who are suffering in Mali and New Zealand, and comfort the hearts of those who love them. And let us always remember and try and think of the ways that we can help those who are less fortunate than us, who are oppressed around the world, and especially those who are easily forgotten, who are disappeared, arrested, tortured, or killed all around the world, like Egypt and Syria and Yemen and Palestine and China and Burma and so many places around the world. Help us learn about Islamophobia and help us find the ways that we can make a difference in all of those that we love. And please, until we meet again at the next khutbah, keep us in your blessed protection and your love. Help us act on the love within us. Help us inspire love in others. And help us invest in loving you, from whom we come and to whom we shall all return.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Grace, for that really gorgeous and beautiful dua. I hope all of you have a blessed Jum'ah. Please have samosas and share with each other. Say salamu alaikum to those you know, and salamu alaikum to those you don't. For the student community, there's a special opportunity to have a question and answer period with Dr. Khaled Abou El Fadl in room 210. So if you're a university student, you don't have to be a Princeton University student, but if you're a university student and you would like to have a Q&A session, we'll we'll meet in room 210 upstairs immediately after Jummah, say 2:15 or so. Welcome to that, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.